So, welcome everyone to the lymphatic system. The video you'll learn everything about the lymphatic system. I'm Marshall Walters.
And I'm Lauren Winger.
As any good video like this begins with, we have an analogy. Here, we get some Hershey's chocolate. Now, you may think, how does chocolate and the lymphatic system connect? Well, I'll tell you, they do in many ways, surprising ways, in fact. We have a chocolate fountain, and as we know how they work, chocolate flows in the fountain. It goes into the bottom, up to the top, then it flows back down. It's one big cycle. And you know what? Chocolate fountain is just like the lymphatic system, and I'll show you how. Well, here's how. Oh boy. So, in a chocolate fountain, there's multiple parts. There's the basin, which holds all the chocolate. There is the heater, which makes sure it's at the same temperature, so it can actually flow and act like a liquid. And at the bottom, at the basin, you can see on that left picture, there's like this motor, this auger, which kind of forces the chocolate back up to the top, which then allows it to circulate. So there's this flow up to the top, and then it drops back down to the basin where it remains heated, and then the motor kind of forces it back up to the top to fall back down. So it's one big cycle. Now, naturally, if you have a chocolate fountain, you'll eat from it. So we have like this strawberry here. It goes into the chocolate fountain and it removes chocolate from the system. However, the chocolate left over is circulated. So the various components that we have the chocolate flowing. We have the dipping of foods, like the strawberry. We have the basin, we have the heater, and we have the motor. The chocolate flowing is just like our blood. Dipping of foods is just like how our blood plasma becomes lymph. The basin is just like our lymphatics, so how we transport lymph and how we hold it and store it. Our heater, that's just like our nodes and our lymphocytes, which clean and filter our lymph. And finally, our motor, which kind of forces our lymph around our body and to circulate, is just like our body movement. This is the process about how we get our lymph from our blood plasma. So our heart pumps blood at a high pressure from our arteries, and then it re-enters our heart through our veins. Now these arteries do have high pressure, so when it hits these capillaries, which are only one cell thick, it actually forces the plasma, blood plasma, through those cells, or potentially to escape the boundaries of the capillary. And this is that hydrostatic pressure you see in that image. It forces it into the ECM, or extracellular matrix, which then makes it interstitial fluid. It then kind of gets sucked back up into the capillary near the venous end, which becomes the veins, through osmotic pressure differences. Not all of our blood plasma, which is now interstitial fluid in the ECM, gets taken back up in the venous end. Instead, the leftovers become lymph.
Leftover lymph, it gets filtered into the lymphatics, or the lymphatic vessels, due to osmosis. The blood plasma will flow from high blood pressure to low blood pressure, and there's higher blood pressure outside of the lymphatic vessels. So this means that it will flow into lymphatic vessels, and something that is important to note is that the way that the lymphatic vessels are designed is in a way such that once the lymph goes into the lymphatic vessels, it cannot be brought back out. And also, it's important to note that the blood plasma that escaped the capillary beds earlier, that's not considered lymph yet. It's considered lymph once inside the lymphatic vessels.
Lymph itself is blood plasma. It has lymphocytes and white blood cells, and sometimes it has lipids. So what lymph is, its contents depend on its environment, what is in the blood, what is in the ECM, and that kind of acts as a sample of the blood as a whole for the body to check. So it's able to transport bacteria. Let's say if you're having if you're having an infection, it's able to transport cancers, and it's able to transport lipids. Lymph is called something very special if it does have lipids in it. It's called chyle. It originates from the digestive system and drains into the thoracic duct, which we'll discuss in just a little bit. So this contains everything that the lymph does have, but it also has lipids, which are called chylomicrons, which are essentially just phospholipid bilayer that surrounds a bunch of different lipids and allows it to be emulsified and able to travel through our blood. To kind of overview what we've gone through so far, the lymph gets picked up in these capillaries, and they suck up all the leftover interstitial fluid in the ECM to produce lymph through the ways that we discussed earlier. I'm going from high pressure to low pressure, and they're trapped inside these lymphatic vessels. They're not allowed to backflow because of those valves you see in the image to your right. And these lymphatic vessels are in fact afferent because they transport the lymph to lymphatic nodes, as well as other organs like the spleen, which will go into the thymus, and the tonsils.
Lymph nodes are organs, as Marshall said, and they range in size from 1 millimeter to about 1 to 2 centimeters. And they're important because they're major housing sites for white blood cells, or B and T lymphocytes. So basically, that's where our lymphatic system connects with the immune system. And they filter and they clean the lymph. So as Marshall was talking about earlier with cancers that are able to travel through the lymphatic system, if a cancer is traveling through the lymphatic system, it will be caught by the lymph node, and if the lymph node does its job, then it will filter out the cancer and kill it there so the cancer doesn't spread. Lymph nodes can be inflamed. This can be a sign of something like really minor, like a cough, to something really major, like HIV, tuberculosis, lupus, and more. So the anatomy of a lymph node, this is where you will get your answers to the diagram we are having you fill out. The most important aspects of the lymph node that I want you to know is, as Marshall was talking about earlier, the afferent lymph vessels. They are important for connecting lymph nodes as well as the efferent lymphatic vessels. And then we want you to know that the sinus is where the lymph flows.
Alright, so now we look at the other organs. We have the spleen, we have the thymus, and we have the tonsils. On the spleen specifically, it holds the macrophages, the T lymphocytes, and the B lymphocytes. The thymus holds the T lymphocytes, and in fact actually develops them into fully matured cells. And the tonsils, they produce T lymphocytes as well. However, something different about the tonsils, they produce these M cells, which are on the surface, and when you have a pathogen that enters your body, those M cells can kind of capture the antigens on those pathogens' surface and trigger an immune response from there. A key thing to look at for all these organs, much like the lymph node, is that lymph will flow through these organs and they will filter the lymph, much like the lymph nodes, or cause an immune response.
Now that the lymph has been filtered through and cleaned through the lymph node, it will flow through our efferent lymphatic vessels into the two main ducts, the thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct.
All right, so the main differences between these two ducts is the area that they pick up their lymph and the place they deposit it. So the right lymphatic duct picks up your lymph from your right arm as well as the right half of your face. The thoracic duct, which picks up everywhere else. It goes from the left side of your face, your left arm, all the way down into your legs. It picks up just about everything. And as we discussed before, the lipids, the chylomicrons that actually are in the lymph that turns lymph into chyle, is produced in your digestive tract, and it ends up eventually draining into your thoracic duct, unlike your right lymphatic duct, which does not have the lipids in it. Now the final difference between these two is where they drain. Our right lymphatic duct drains into our right subclavian vein as well as our right jugular veins, and our thoracic duct dumps into our left subclavian veins and our left jugular veins, which then eventually dump into our heart for all that cleaned blood plasma and lymph to be cycled throughout the body.
Oh, so Marshall, you're telling me that the lymphatic system is not only connected to the immune system, but to the circulatory system as well?
You are very correct. That's how lymph cycles throughout the body. Now we have some interesting facts. So our first one is that if you didn't have a lymphatic system, all that extra fluid would be left over, and it would pool up in your ankles, so you'd have some real big cankles of fluid. How much lymph that cycles through our body is about
2 to 4 liters of fluid a day.
So that's about 2 to 4 water bottles.
Did you know that your tonsils are the most famous lymph nodes? And if you ever wanted to have a sauna because you're feeling stressed out, now you have an even better reason to, because heat in the sauna helps increase lymphatic circulation. And also, there are special lymphatic drainage massagers that can push up to 78% of stagnant lymph back into circulation.